Dia de los Muertos and happy All Hallows Eve all. I love this time of year. It's kind of nice. The weather's sort of changing, becoming more gaming weather. And it's nice to sort of celebrate your lost friends and people that have passed on and your family members. And I like the idea that when they're gone, they're not really gone as long as somebody remembers them. I want to talk to you and thank you very much, by the way, for the people who've downloaded Enlightened and are playtesting it. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Some of it's very interesting. A lot of it is what I expected. Some of it was not. I enjoy the fact now that there's some new groups popping up and they're playing it and feeding back information. And the great thing about producing a game is there's always something you didn't expect to have happen. And that's the reason we wanted to put it out as a playtest, because we knew that there was lots of things that, even though we were happy with it, it has to stand the test of time with everybody. So all you people who are feeding back information to me, I appreciate it. A lot of people are trying to go way down the road, which is great. You know, I mean, we have a lot of stuff produced for much higher level characters, different and unique skills and abilities and different classes. And they keep asking us, can we do this? Can we do that? Of course, as you know, I think you can do anything you want to do within the group. Just let me know, because essentially when we put it out there, we're going to try to put some sort of limitations so that people can't or won't go completely off the rail. But still, the point is, it's really up to you. Tony sent me a tweet to myself and Matt Colville, and was asking about having his children get involved in their first role-playing games and what was my feeling of best way to get them started. And I just told him the easiest thing I've always thought is that all people are looking for is the thrilling heroics, the ability to rescue and save the downtrodden and underdogs and victims of evil, and get really cool magical items. I said, it's kind of been my secret for 50 years. You just put a backdrop and a set of rules behind it, and you've got a game. And it will go on, because every time people get together, it's the fun and the whimsy that people are looking for. You know, I'm always concerned sometimes that the role-playing games try to sort of parcel everything out, you know, little by little, and you know, make you work really hard. A lot of the living games, you know, you play forever and ever, and you may be lucky to get a +1 sword. I don't get that. I mean, to me, it's The Hobbit, when the dwarves get taken by the trolls in what looks like Tolkien made a, random encounter while they were taking their evening rest. And they find a troll there. The trolls sort of kind of are battling the dwarves. They lose. Now the dwarves are captured, and the rogue has to kind of like use his thieving and negotiating skills to sort of get the trolls to be delayed. And last but not least, the NPC wizard shows up at the final end and saves the day. But what was cool about it, of course, is it was a lair. So now, instead of just being a cheap random encounter where you get nothing but a few copper pieces, they turn out to get 3 really, really badass magical items. I love that. And that was a starting account. You know, give people, especially new people are coming into your game for the first time, give them something. And a lot of times it doesn't take a lot. One of my playtest sessions, and one of the dwarven buddies had a magical hammer, and one of the players said, can we use it? Because we're going to fight some bad monsters, and we need to try to hopefully give us every advantage we can. And it turned out that it was something that I had custom made for some of the rules that were not actually included yet in the playtest, which was the idea of different styles of weapons. So the little hammer was -1 damage normally, but +3 damage instead if the monsters or defenders, or however you wish to call them, are armor class 4 or better, where it's a little weapon that's very effective against armor. Even though it's small, it can be really nasty to get at the chinks of heavy armor or dragon scale or all that type of thing. And those are the things we're going to be doing down the road. We're talking about armor, encumbrances, there's so many things. We had this past weekend a relatively large high-level encounter. The party members are now up into the 12 to 14 seasons, have accumulated a lot of enlightenments, some high-level abilities, some magic items, and there were some characters that were doling out a lot of damage, and surprisingly, they were able to be very effective against some very high-level monsters. Now, the whole thing is they were all trying to prevent the coming of the great worm of Masasul, and they did. Now, whether they're going to be able to stop it at the next encounter, I don't know. But this is basically a situation with all playtesting rules. You've got to push the top end. See how the game plays as it gets nastier. And that's sort of, again, once again, designed by you and the DM. Now, it'll all be designed by us, and there'll be lots of it out there, and you can always just play within the parameters, but still, I wanted to give you more options of doing things. But in any game, you want to basically make the game as thematic as you can by utilizing the rules for that point. That's why a lot of people switch different rule systems and go to different things, because the rules are theoretically designed for the game genre. Not always the case. Oftentimes they're just taking a system that exists and sort of piling it on there and doing that. And that's what I didn't want. Still likely going to get a lot of that in the final version because people want more structure. I find that, people are constantly asking me, is it okay if I do this? And sometimes people want to bend the rules. That seems to be a very common thing. And I understand that too, having obviously played D&D. I notice a lot of times, especially when I end up at competitive events, you found people who are real finding sticklers of what is the most optimal build to make. And that's part of human nature, is the idea that can wizards wear armor? And my immediate response is, well, no. You can wear like robes or light armor, so we were going to keep it at that. And I said I still would keep it at that. The idea the wizard could wear light armor, something basically up to 1 to maybe 3. So if you could find up some kind of like maybe displacer hide or something where it adds, a higher level of armor protection and maybe a little feature as well. So you might have something that it gives you a defensive advantage on top of that for like a displacer or a set of leather armor. The other point of it is where fighter characters take 1 less penalty on their encumbrance for their armor. So 3 is a 2-point penalty to a fighter. It's the reverse for a wizard. So a 3-point defense to a wizard would be a 4-point encumbrance. The idea is wizards really, mostly, of course, until they're hybrid, tend not to be people who are wearing armor. Now, there are other game systems and things you might add based on yours, which I like, is the idea that, cold iron interferes with magic. So if you're going to be using armor with your wizard, it shouldn't be iron. I mean, you can get away with bronze, which maybe is a less effective armor. You could have some kind of magical silvered items, whatever, quicksilver, mithril, those type of things. However you want to work it within whatever parameters in your role-playing game is what I would do. Again, this is me. This isn't canon for the rules. It's surely at this point not even laid out in the role-playing aspect I'm doing in the Twilight of Fae campaign. But it will likely get more and more canon as we move forward. And it's quickly doing that because thankfully playtesting is doing exactly what I hoped it would do, because we're finding that these characters accumulate experience at a fairly prodigious rate. Because there's lots of role-playing, and I like to reward role-playing with experience. It's even in the basic deal. Experience for a light battle is 5 points, 10 points if there's lots of role-playing. I don't mind games, and we had that in the game we played this weekend where they're starting to stop the worm. Half the game was role-playing, trying to get people to evacuate the town ahead of the worm so they weren't wiped out, and a running ongoing battle with the outriders who were basically trying to run the party down before they could get to protection and warn other villages and towns of what was happening, and then the ability to battle the creatures and then try to find ways to, again, as they did, stop the thumpers from and what would bring the worm. And now their situation is, as the end of that adventure, which it has succeeded in doing, now the question is, what are they going to do because the worm is still coming? So how are they going to deal with it? So now having to make allies with people they don't necessarily want to make allies with, but things you have to do in role-play. And that's what makes the game fun and exciting for people. I know I sort of harp on this a lot, but I really want to just reiterate, it's your game. It is the great situation where you are trading a very valuable asset, your time, sometimes and often your money, but mostly your time and your friends' time, for whimsy. I mean, what we're doing here is celebrating all the greatness of history and mythology and all the things that went on in great storytelling. And that's what makes the game great. Anything you watch on all the live games, I don't know if you're that interested in watching the monsters. I mean, a lot of people love to hear the Murphy Orc Trap and all the things I've created to make the combats interesting. But really, truthfully, the greatness of the game has always been the background story, and can you defeat the foe within the framework of rules and become that heroic character you want to be? I've succeeded many times. A few times my characters have died doing it, but that still was phenomenally great experience for both me and the other players who were with me, because that story lives on long after you've stopped playing and everything else. And so that's what to remember. As far as you guys out there playtesting, keep on it. Let me know what you're doing. Let me know what you design. Let me know what you think. Let me know what characters. If you come up with new classes, all that's open for you guys to do. Now, a lot of it we may look at and say, look, we have this, and this is what we came up with that was similar, and then decide for yourself. But if you think yours is better than mine, or Steve's, or any of our designers who are working on this, use it. It's your game. And if the players want to come up with it, really let them use it. The greatest thing I ever learned from my buddy Steve, he said, was you never want to say no if you can say yes. But I think the whole concept of good role-playing is the good role-playing. The system, even one designed by me, still is going to be limited by its possibilities. That's why, like Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson said when they produced original D&D, look, we're just giving you the basic framework. You are the one who are to build upon this. And, like Caltech, they built upon it. I mean, they essentially made 2 books full of detailed abilities on how D&D Zero actually functioned. Spell points and all these things that did not exist in the game, they created. And it's sort of kind of made for the Southern California D&D experience in the 70s. We had sort of a hybrid of original D&D and Caltech, sort of all bashed together. And I think after a year or so, pretty much that's what everybody was kind of playing. And then, of course, when AD&D came out, everyone just ran to that. And then we started going to the fact that instead of there being sort of a free framework of you do what you want, AD&D was like, okay, we've now quantified everything. But again, my feeling to that is they just need to sell product. I understand that. I'm producing an item. I'm hoping to sell some product. There were a lot of great game systems. They just didn't get enough audience to keep producing more and more stuff for it. So in the case of Dragon Quest, which is a great system, it just seriously needs someone like Don Hawthorne to sit down and make an updated modification to the way the game plays. It's just missing a few things because there wasn't enough money after the initial production to go ahead and make a Dragon Quest 3, with adding, more things so the players could do it. If you look at it and you build on it yourself, like we've done, it still holds up as a fabulous system. It's just nobody knows about it. And you can't find it. And, you've heard all me mention about these lost systems that are out there that nobody plays, like RuneQuest, which I loved and everybody hated. So keep playing, keep gaming, enjoy the holidays with your friends. So until I have a chance, keep giving me info back, enjoy your hobby, and fight to me, devils, fight, for I hate peace. Game on, and have a good one. Bye-bye.